Collins & Co.'s not-for-profit conference, Be Empowered Through Knowledge, is designed specifically for the not-for-profit sector. Our speakers are experts in this sector, and their practical approach provides not-for-profit board members and management with the opportunity to improve their skills and knowledge across a range of specialist topics. The conference also provides a great networking opportunity.
Welcome, Gemma.
Right, thank you for that nice introduction. So a little bit more on my background. The reason I'm giving this to you is because everything about HR is about people. We're not here, well, our business isn't to sell a product, we're here to support through a service, and that's through what we do. So I think it's really important that you understand who I am and what I'm about. So I was born and bred in Warrnambool, Victoria, 3 hours down the coast. I moved to Melbourne about 8 years ago. I have a passion for helping people and helping businesses. A people problem can cause someone a lot of stress and anxiety. People and cash flow are the two biggest things that keep business owners up at night. I have a Bachelor in Commerce and I majored in HR, also DISC accredited, training and assessment and work cover. I've worked across Australia and New Zealand. As mentioned, pretty good achievement of mine. I was a HR manager for a global company quite at a young age, and the HR department, Docklands, commenced in February 2018, so just over 2 years old. We service predominantly SME businesses through outsourced HR support. We've currently got a team of 3, and that's growing quite rapidly. And some of you may have heard from my business partner Jess earlier this morning. So, people management. Put your hands up who loves dealing with all the wonderful and weird things that come with employees. So, there's a lot in it. So today's presentation, I'm going to focus on more the positive side, not on how to manage underperforming employees, but more around how to captivate and engage your employees in your organisation and some strategies that we can implement. So what makes an organisation retain staff? Really making sure that you have a strong, cohesive culture that's positive. This day and age, we've got businesses with multiple generations in it, and no one person is the same. Everyone is different. We hear a lot of the term, the millennials. Now I'm a millennial myself, so I can put my hand up and say that, but a little bit outside the box. Whereas most millennials these days want to graduate from uni, want to have $80,000 and not come in and work their way up. So it's really important that we create a culture that serves to all the different generations in a workplace. Now, not to say that millennials are bad, it's making sure that what we do in our business, basically to get the best out of everyone. We need to make sure that we have an employee-focused mindset from the top down. So if the leaders of the organisation don't value their number one asset, which is people, then we're going to have a problem. We need to make sure a business has a focus on professional and personal development. Making sure that you care about your employees' development and growth is really important. And making sure that we have a fair and reasonable approach to workplace and performance matters. So there are some of the things that really is going to help an organisation retain staff. So now we're going to talk about strategies to implement to achieve this. Structure and consistency is the key to making sure you have in your business. Making sure that your workplace standards are fair for everyone. Having a performance development structure in place, and I'll talk a little bit about that soon as to what that actually looks like. Implementing key performance indicators to achieve and exceed employee and business performance. So these are 3 strategies which are going to help us maintain our employees and have good people management. So hands up who has workplace standards in their organisation at the moment. Now that could be through organisational policies and procedures, our values, whatever it may be. Yep. Who has a performance development process, which in the old days is your annual review? And key performance indicators? And do you think they're all valuable? Do you actually get something out of them? Yeah, so it's making sure that the processes that we have in place actually add value. So how do we do this? So I'm going to talk a little bit about workplace standards. Outlined in an employee handbook and policies and procedures, they're displayed through your organisational culture. So a standard doesn't have to be a tangible item. It can be the ethos across the organisation when it comes to how you treat your employees. They're shown through the company values and purpose, and making sure that you're consistent across the organisation with your standards. What you do for one is making sure you do it for the other, because if we have favouritism, that's going to cause a lot of issues down the track. That even comes to disciplining an employee, making sure if you're going to go through the performance management process with someone for a certain underperforming behaviour, but not with the next person, you're the one that's going to come unstuck. Performance development. So performance development is quite a big word. So it encompasses a lot of different sectors a lot of different areas when it comes to managing an employee's performance. So probation reviews. Who has a probation review process in the organisation? Does someone want to volunteer and say how it works? What's yours set up? Yep.
We have the first aid plan and so that the system.
Yep.
The target is expected to pay and then they have the manager to check the service.
Excellent. Yeah.
And then they actually sign off on the system.
Perfect. Yeah, a lot of people have a probation clause in in a contract, but they actually don't do anything to help improve the employee's onboarding process. So a probation is a really good opportunity to create two-way communication between both the employee and the employer. We generally recommend that you have a 1 month, 3 month and 5 month review. The reason we say that is if there is issues, we're addressing them at the 5 month mark. So at the 11th hour on the last day before they tick over the 6 month mark, we have a plan. Are we going to continue this relationship or move it on? It creates two-way feedback for both parties, and some issues that could arise can be easily rectified by communicating with your employees, and it provides structure. They know that these meetings are going to be in place. It's really important to understand if you're a small business, so defined by Fair Work under the Small Business Fair Dismissal Code. If you've got less than 15 employees, you've technically got a probation period of 12 months by law. No one would ever write that in a contract because I personally wouldn't sign a 12-month probation clause. But you've got that from a legal backing. If you're over 15 employees, you've got 6 months and you can't go a day over the 6 months. So I have a lot of clients ringing us, the night before the 6 month is over, what can we do? So it's really important that we use the probation period to its best ability. You can move someone on in a probation period, and you can't be subject to unfair dismissal. But there's also another way people can go is called general protections, which is becoming more and more prevalent. And someone can lodge a claim under 6 months. So it's just really important. It adds value, but it's also a safeguard. Performance reviews. So in today's society, we encourage not just your annual tick and flick performance review, because we sit down with your manager employee once a year and then it goes in the drawer and you don't look at it until you have to do it next year. It's just a bit of a, like I said, tick and flick compliance. However, we really like to set up our performance reviews. We don't call them reviews, it's more development because it's about your development. A review's not here to sit and tell you everything you've done wrong. In a review, it should be all positive and constructive feedback. If there's any areas where an employee is underperforming, it should be addressed in a timely manner. Don't wait for an employee's review to sit down and identify these. So we like to have the annual one and then regular check-ins. So these regular check-ins are either quarterly or 6 monthly, where you have a conversation, ideally go out for coffee, have a general informal chat to check in on the employee, see how they're going, and check if they're working towards their annual goals. Training and development plan, focus and budget in organisations is critical. We no longer see people staying around in businesses for 5, 10, 15, 20 years as much as what we did, say, 10, 20 years ago. That's because everyone is out to climb the corporate ladder, or they don't like the technology the business is using and they jump to the new modern one. The average length of an employee's service is roughly around the 2 years. If you get someone for 2 years, you're doing okay. So it's really important that we have a focus on training and development in the organisation, because we're all here, we all come to work because we need money, but there's more to life than just money these days. So it's about the flexibility, the training, the opportunities that organisations give their employees that will help retain them. Key performance indicators. These are targets that are set above and beyond the standard duties and responsibilities of an employee's role. They basically give you a stretch to your day-to-day job. The reason we have these is we want to continue to grow and exceed and excel our employees' abilities. Not everyone wants to climb the corporate ladder, and that is more than okay. However, we want to try and get the best out of our employees. So putting in key performance indicators provides for that growth and development and gives something for them to aim for. Sometimes KPIs might be, if you achieve above and beyond, you might get a voucher, or you might get a weekend away, or it could be monetary. So every business has it in different ways, but key performance indicators are a great aspect to implement in your organisation to really track and monitor performance and give your employees something to aim for. So how do we introduce these processes in an organisation or amend them? What you implemented 3 years ago might not necessarily be right for today's market. Change is inevitable. I used to work for a general manager many years ago, and he would say business changes every 90 days. And having my own business now, I truly believe that. What we're doing yesterday or 3 months ago is going to be different to what we're doing in 3 months' time. So this type of stuff is ever evolving. So even if you've got it in place, not to say it's not right, there's no right or wrong, it's how can we improve it. So I'm going to go through the execution process and how we can do that. So at the HR department, we're all about making sure that we educate and coach our clients for collaboration. Making sure if you're going to implement changes in the workplace, you get the buy-in from your employees. Humans resist change, that's just natural. However, if you take them along the journey, you're going to have more luck. So if you're going to introduce these processes or amend your current ones, we really recommend that you get input from your employees on how best they see it is fit to implement these processes. Generally, the managers or the business owners aren't working day to day, so they don't understand what makes the business tick in and out as much as the employees in the jobs. So with clients, we like to bring them together, and we sometimes help out as a third-party independent, because employees don't always like to voice their thoughts and opinions in front of their boss or in front of the owner. So that having a team workshop session is one really good opportunity. So basically, guys, we're going to make some changes. We want your input before we do this, because then they will feel like they're being brought along the journey. Another way is an engagement survey, an anonymous survey to find out how the employees are liking our current annual review process. Do they feel the standards in the workplace are appropriate? Are there any issues? This isn't an opportunity for a moan and whinge session. This is an opportunity to actually get solid feedback where someone doesn't have the fear of putting their name on it. And then we basically collate that information and identify the themes to then present to them and work out the actions moving forward. So the next part is designing, basically putting together our process, whether it's new or amending our existing one. We like to reflect on the collaboration process. So what you did through that collaboration process, how have we gone, what information have we found? Analyse the information collected to determine the best way forward to implement the new processes to enhance the people management and employee retention of organisations. And in today's society, we all understand the flexible workplace. There's a bit of a theme here today, the coronavirus. There's a lot of businesses that are asking employees to work from home. The work from home is becoming the new norm. There's a lot of organisations out there doing the 4-day a week. Not to say these type of flexibilities is going to fit every business, but to be open-minded to the traditional way of the workplace is really important, because I personally know when I was a HR manager and I was in an office, the days that I worked from home, I got so much more done. You didn't have meetings for the sake of meetings. You didn't have people knocking on your doors. So it's just changing that mindset of, 10 years ago when working from home wasn't there, it was more about, they could be sitting at home watching movies or out with walking their dog, out with their friends, whereas these days people actually strive to work from home because they're more productive. And making sure that you communicate the proposed changes to gain feedback before implementation. So as I said, I really like to take our clients on a journey and their team. So it's not the managers, the owners just saying, this is the way we're doing it today, making sure that we communicate and ensure that what we're doing is right for them. Implementation. So a one-to-many delivery of team. So not just sending out an email and saying, hey, now guys, we're all going to have KPIs from Monday. It's about communicating it to them, showing them the value and why we're implementing things like KPIs, annual performance reviews, new workplace standards. It provides them notice of the changes. So people, as I mentioned, resist change. It's very common and normal, but it's frustrating for business owners because they just want to move forward. But if it's all in a way you communicate your new strategy around that. Engage a new theme. So we like to say, maybe we're having the session today to roll out something that's going to start 1 April. New quarter, new us, new ways to do things. If you're going from a paper system to an online. I know I've worked in organisations before where they've done everything manually and we've rolled out online through the cloud base, and it's resistant to change because you've got people there. Some people love tech, some people hate it. It's not as good as the paper system, it takes longer, all these things, but it's about how we communicate and implement the change. We're going to get the best outcome. And as I mentioned, allow for a transition period and employee adaptation. So if you're going to introduce KPIs 1 April and then on the 20th of April someone does something that's totally against it or they're not working towards it, don't crucify them. Give them the time to get used to the change. If they're doing it in November, well, maybe we can tap them on the shoulder and have a conversation. But it's really important that when you're implementing new standards or amending them, that you communicate. So evaluation, just because we implement something today doesn't mean it's going to work. It might not be the right approach, even if we've followed all the right steps in engagement. So it's making sure that we evaluate to make sure our workplace standards are appropriate for our business. Do they work? Do they need amending? Review our KPIs. Are they realistic? Are they timely? Are they still appropriate? What we might think is right when we're writing them, in reality and practicality is not actually right. Performance development process. Making sure is it beneficial? Are we getting what we need from this process, or are employees just doing it because we're telling them to? It's critical that you evaluate anything that you do. So where to now? we basically encourage everyone to have these what we call next level HR foundations. If you're in a session earlier, Jess spoke about having your HR essentials. These are what I call the next level, making sure that we have things in place in an organisation that keep employees wanting to stay with us. It's really hard to find a good candidate in today's market, but to retain them is even harder. So making sure that you do these things in your business practice is really important. And to a lot of you sitting out there, you could go, this is just fluff and soft. I'm the least fluffiest person you could find, but it actually works because people want to feel loved. They want to feel like they've got a purpose and they've got guidance on where they're heading. So if their managers or the business owner really want to help them achieve that, they're going to get a lot more out of the employees. So basically, how can we help you achieve this? What we like to do is come into organisations, look at where you're currently at. We could come and say everything's fine, you don't need to change anything. However, we come in, we offer a review where we can provide a complimentary in-depth assessment of your HR processes and procedures and see if there's any areas of gap, and then identify a solution how we can work forward. And that is all. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or would like to discuss any scenarios?
Just going off on a bit of a track, you were talking about the mentors. We don't actually have any mentors in our organisation. The only people I know are mostly teenagers. They actually seem quite engaged. Is the badge with millennials true?
That's a very good. I'm not an expert in this, but I would say some of the badge is true and some not. Because what we have is, for example, in workplaces, the millennials want to come in. They don't want to fill out 10 pieces of paper. They want to just do the form online. Whereas the people that have been around longer, they're like, no, the form works. It's easy. We've been doing it for the last 20 years. Why change something that's not broken? And that's where the clash comes, and it can create a lot of tension and issues. And you also have the situation where someone younger is managing an older person, and that can be really challenging for both parties. The employee reporting up to someone that is younger is like, this person was in diapers when I was, starting out, type of thing. Or I could be their mum or dad. And then vice versa. And myself, being quite a young manager, I personally struggled with it. It's like, I'm not good enough. Why are they going to listen to me? But then it's about your mindset going, hang on, I wouldn't have been put in this role if I wasn't capable. People have trust and faith, so we just have to move on and remove age as a barrier. But unfortunately, it is something that comes up, and we talk about it nearly on a daily basis with all our clients.
So I think that people have an idea
Correct. Yeah, and I find workplaces are slowly adapting to it because we do have a big mix of different generations in the one workplace. It can be challenging. Yeah. No worries. All right. Yes?
Okay. Do you believe that there's any employees with long support attitude or there's something you just have to
Sometimes you just have to cut your losses. Going back to the start, so the recruitment, but if at the end, always hire for fit. No, I know that. If you hire at the start from a fit perspective, that's going to help it along the way. If you identify that towards the end during their employment that they are not the right fit from a culture, attitude, perspective, values, That is a really hard thing to change. You can teach the technical skills, but if someone doesn't want to change their mindset and their attitude, you can try until you're black and the blue in the face, but it's just not going to work. I would never cut my losses straight away. I would try. It's about communicating with them, telling them the issues that we're noticing and the problems that we're having, because sometimes people actually don't even realise. Now, if there's been a change in behaviour, there actually could be something going on out in their personal life that we don't know about, because they're good at hiding it, but we know something's up. So I always start by having a conversation with employees and saying, are you actually happy at work? Because you'll be surprised the amount of people have said to me, no, but they're too scared, they don't know how to go about it and what to do. So, okay, that's okay. You don't have to be happy, but let's try and work out a plan to rectify that. So in short answer, the behaviour and attitude is very hard to change. Yeah, and 1% of your organisation can bring down a whole team, especially if you've got a small team, and it's like a cancer, it can spread very quick. It's just not worth it.
We actually put a lot of energy. Sometimes we feel like we are complicated and become really not productive at all. So I wonder if you have any tips or how should we work that? I really not very involved in something like it's pretty hard.
It's very hard. It's very hard. And in a business, we need all those different types of people. We need the IT, the numbers people, the people, the customer service, everything. So, but bringing them in, that's when there's clashes. For example, HR always clash with finance, because finance don't want to do the team bonding exercise because they're worried about the budget, but HR wants to do it because it's good for the people. So it's very natural. But what I suggest is engaging someone and basically doing a session, identifying that, we are different, but we have to work as a team. How can we do it? And actually speaking those differences out loud can be a real eye-opener. So one of the things that I do with some clients is I'm accredited in DISC profiling. It's a psychometric behavioural assessment for the workplace. There's lots of them out there, and comes back to the fluff. There's a lot of fluff, but this is actually not fluff, it's real, because it was done on me many years ago, and when I found the results, I was like, oh my God, this is me to a T. So what we do from a team engagement perspective, everyone does a profile. The finance people are going to be all in the same area. The customer service are all going to be in the same area. Bringing them together and making them understand the differences and how best they can work together is actually a really good exercise. But not hiding the differences, that's where we can get into trouble. So coordinating a team engagement type of session, but it's not a one-off thing. If you bring everyone together and maybe go do a team bonding exercise and a theory workshop, once off is not going to work. It's that continual focus in the organisation that businesses need to have on their employee. As I mentioned earlier, employees should be your number one asset. No matter how good of a product or service that you've got, it's only as good as people that is there supporting it. Unless you have a business that's full of robots, which one day we might. But at the moment, we've all got people.
Can you set KPIs for, about someone with bad attitude in the organisation? I mean, in regards to their performance management, what kind of KPIs do you set to sort of
Yeah. So if someone is from a performance management perspective, I'd put them on what's called short-term PIP. It's a performance improvement plan, basically identifying the areas that we need them to focus on. It's a bit different than a KPI because when it comes to attitude, behaviour, values, you can't measure it. You can't say you need to get 5 out of 5, It's about opinion. So this performance improvement plan sets out what we need to focus on. We're going to meet weekly, fortnightly for an 8 to 12 week period, and we're going to monitor it. And if it doesn't improve, we will go down the disciplinary process. It's not where we want to do, but this is the first part on trying to get you back on track. That two-way communication, and it's all documented and clear. Because if in the unfortunate event you do end up at Fair Work, for example, no matter how many conversations you've had, if it is not documented, they never happened.
Would you suggest that the size of organisations where you dedicated HR person?
That's a very good question.
A lot of managers get promoted because of their technical ability or their ability of whatever the business actually is, which doesn't necessarily include people management.
Correct.
And then they've got to lead a team. And you can have the KPIs, you can have the roles, responsibilities, you can have all of that. But if you've got like 5 managers that are all different, they deliver it differently.
100%. You can have the best structure and processes on paper, train your managers on how to do it, but if they don't do it, you're going to be stuck. So in a lot of organisations, especially that have long-term employees, what we find is they've been the hands-on, so say the accountant in your world, and they've been a great accountant, and after X amount of years they promote them to the manager. They're actually promoting people to a level of their incompetency, and it actually comes back on the organisation. It's not the employee's fault, because the employee was actually, their skills and ability were never management skills. Some people have it naturally, and that's where they develop, and they're the good ones. But some people are never actually going to be a natural leader and manager. And a lot of the time, like you said, we promote them into these roles, but we don't give them the training and education around that to develop their skills, learn how to have a difficult conversation. Now, even with all that training, doesn't mean someone's going to turn out and be a good manager. There's just some people out there that are really good doers, but not leaders. So it's really important that when we're appointing someone into a leadership role, that we're doing it for the right benefits, not just because, oh, you've been here 10 years, you deserve it. Or we're desperate, we've got a manager's position to fill. And then, does that kind of answer that side of the question?
I'm not being disappointed with having the managers manage the workload and actually having a dedicated people manager.
Yeah,
So the managers don't manage their own,
yeah.
HR on it.
Correct, yeah. So when it comes to what size is right to have a HR manager, let's call it, there is no right answer. I've got a client and they've got over 100 staff. They don't have internal HR, we're their HR. We get to know the business inside out and become an extension of their team, so not a call centre. So that's how that works. Whereas there's some businesses out there that have less than 100 and they have a HR person. So it really depends on the nature of your business, where your problems are, and what you actually want to achieve. There's some businesses out there and they have, say, a junior person doing the processing, making sure everything's up to date, and the inquiries, and then we help from a strategic coach and mentor perspective. Sometimes people, like your managers, might ring us because they want the devil's advocate outside opinion, because having an internal HR manager sometimes can be seen as unbiased. As I'm probably sure we've all heard, there is a bad name out there for HR, just natural. I remember, you know, in my early days, if I was out socially on the weekend, what do you do? HR. You must not be a very nice person. No, there's different ways in how you can approach things. We act for franchisors. So we act for their HQ, their head office, and then also a multitude of 70 franchisees. So they don't have a dedicated HR, and they never really want to, because they want to always make sure it's outsourced. So we give that devil's advocate opinion. So yeah, there's no real answer. We have mum and dad clients up to 100 plus staff. I think if you're getting to your 150, 200, you definitely need someone. But again, it depends on what you actually want to get out of the HR function. Because we can have a HR manager that makes sure we've got the right contracts, PDs, policies and all that stuff. But then you can have a HR manager or a provider that talks about this stuff, which is around development and giving our managers the right tools and equipment into how to have a difficult conversation and how to lead. As you said, they're given the title, but they're not given and shown what do you do when one of your staff is underperforming, or what do you do when one of your staff is coming in 10 minutes late every day? Doesn't seem much once or twice, but if they're doing it every day, there's an issue and we must address it. And a lot of time, even business owners aren't confident in having these conversations. And because a lot of the time, managers and business owners, they're close to their team members, so it becomes emotional. So it's really important that when you walk through the door, you have the business mindset on, not the emotional. But I totally understand emotions get in the way, because we want to help out Tom, even though, he's not performing and we're losing money. But we don't want to have the difficult conversation because it's really hard. No worries. Thank you very much.